Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio, welcoming you to another edition of People of Distinction. The talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org, for more info, or you can email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have Bob Jack. We'll be discussing his book, A View from the Eagle's Nest, When Justice Failed Assessments of the Obama Era. Now, guys, just so you're aware, there's a few different places you'll be able to find that book. Of course, available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. But do yourself a favor. If you want to get the full experience of everything that Bob has to offer, don't stop there, okay? I'm going to list another 3 areas where you'll be able to pick up information not only on this title, other titles that Bob has written as well, but also just information on Bob also, okay? So we have Houston Jack. That's actually his blog site. So it's going to be Houston, and then Jack, J-A-C minus the K. Type that into your Google or any search bar, and his blog site will come right up. Okay, so that's Houston Jack for his blog site. You can go to his personal website to purchase his books. That's going to be bobjackbooks.com. And that Jack is spelled with the K as well. It's only without the K in Houston Jack, which is his blog site. Okay, so his personal site for his books, bobjackbooks.com. And you can also watch a promotional video that he's orchestrated and put together as well on A View from the Eagle's Nest. And that is going to be Bob Jack promotional video. You can find that on youtube.com. So a bunch of areas that you'll be able to find more information on Bob, more information on his book, and more information on his other books, as well as purchasing them as well. Houston Jack, that's his blog site, bobjackbooks.com, or type in Bob Jack promotional video at YouTube. And just so you guys are aware, Bob was brought to People of Distinction today by some of the best movers in the business. Workbook Press Publishing. If you have a book that you'd like moved, move it to Workbook Press. You can find them at workbookpress.com. And guys, I'm excited to have Bob here on the line with us, okay? Because the book we're going to be discussing today, A View from the Eagle's Nest, When Justice Failed Assessments of the Obama Era, is really, we get the title. We know what it's going to be revolving around. It's going to be revolving around Barack Obama and his administration in the 8 years that he was in office. Now, what I love about this, and really why I'm excited to have him here on the line, is because I love having this platform. Listen, we love discussing matters that revolve and reflect our human family across the board here at People of Distinction. And what better way to do that, right? When we have people that come on the line that may have opposing views, right? I love being able to have this platform at the end of the day, regardless of what my political stance is, and regardless of what Bob's political stance or yours, having this platform and being connected. Listen, guys, we're all in the same human family. So we may have differences of opinions, we may have different ideas, but at the end of the day, we're all still connected in our human family that way. And I'm so excited to have Bob here on the line to discuss his amazing book and his personal views on the Obama administration. And who else better to have here and discuss all of those nuances than Bob himself. So without further ado, Bob, first and foremost, thank you so much for being a guest with us today on People of Distinction. How are you?
Thank you, Benji. Good. Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
Absolutely. Well, Bob, listen, before we jump into the book itself, let's start off. Tell our listening audience a little bit about yourself, please.
Yeah, I grew up in the Southern California area around the San Gabriel Valley area, Pasadena, Sierra Madre, Glendora, that area. I played baseball. I love baseball, played baseball through my second year in college. I then got married and very young, and I went and finished my schooling at Cal State Los Angeles and in economics, and I went on later in life and got a MBA degree at Azusa Pacific University, and then I went on and got a Master of Science in Advanced Management from Claremont Graduate School out in Claremont, California, and I worked at Parsons engineering and construction for 24 years. Got a lot of my background from there, and I worked in the academic community as well as the corporate, regular corporate university area. So anyway, that's kind of a quick tour on my background and my overview, my education and so forth. And I guess that will do it for that, Benji, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, first and foremost, quick side note, I'm an East Coast boy, born and raised there, but I actually moved out here to California about 10 years ago for my master's degree for graduate studies. And it was a 3-year program. After I completed it, I had no intention of leaving, man. California is a wonderful, wonderful place, and lived in Claremont for a year. The majority of my time has been spent here in Southern California, Orange County, in the LA area. Claremont was an absolutely beautiful place. I mean, it's a fantastic city. So thank you so much for sharing, Bob. Now let's jump right in. A view from the Eagle's Nest when justice failed assessments of the Obama era. Tell us a little bit about the book.
I sure will. Let me just start here. The book, A View from the Eagle's Nest, as you just said, when justice failed, policy assessments during the Obama era. It's kind of a long title, but that's it. It's a compendium of assessments from my blog site at Houston Jack. It covers the Obama political era. The inspiration, I want to get into the inspiration for this book, was the insight that we were in the midst of a major paradigm shift in the history of American politics. Not only was Barack Obama the first black president, but he brought to the presidency what I believe to be a dangerous combination of values and beliefs which cut deeply into and across the fiber of traditional America, its values, its culture, and its traditional beliefs. He was tutored by Frank Davis as a young man who was an avowed communist. He was tutored by Bill Ayers of the Weather Underground, domestic terrorists. There were a lot of influences on his life, and then he was a community organizer as well. A lot of activist activities involved in his background, which I think cut deeply and across the fiber of American traditional values. That was a great concern of mine. I thought we would have a major paradigm shift, and that's why I wrote the book. I wanted to capture that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing, Bob. So much information here, really, that we can go. I mean, there's so many different branches on this tree that we can go down here. Now, let's start off. We know a little bit about the book, and we know somewhat of the inspiration, really what inspired you to embark upon this journey. Talk to us about the title. Really, why did you specifically decide to name your book that, and how did you develop that creatively and bring it into fruition?
Okay, well, let me, A View from the Eagle's Nest, that aspect of the book, I wanted to project the fact that we were looking down at a situation that was unfolding, and that was my view from the Eagle's Nest. The part of it, when justice failed, is I feel that there was a tremendous number of incidences which arose during the Obama administration, which are still going on, by the way, in investigations that are ongoing under Attorney General Barr right now, where he was doing things and making things happen that were not ever fulfilled as far as justice is concerned. Things were happening, events took place, people were hurt. There were the IRS scandal where conservative groups were being sought out and made more difficult for them to get tax-exempt status. There was the Obamacare fiasco, which in my opinion was a fiasco, where no one even read that law or that bill after it was passed. It was a completely partisan piece of legislation. It has had to have been dismantled in the last 4 years, 3.5 years by President Trump. There were just a number of things where justice did not meet up to what I expected the American people deserved. And as far as the policy assessments part of it, of the title, what I did was, as policies were unveiled by Obama, I assessed those policies in my book and came up with a evaluation that was, I think, easy to read, quick to read in a blog format, which was a compendium of blogs for the book. And that's kind of how the title was put together, Benji.
Now, you mentioned the blog, and this is specifically going back to Houston Jack. That's your blog site, correct? And that's where you're pulling a lot of that information that we would be able to find within the confines of the book, correct?
Correct, yeah. There's a lot of blogs there. There's about 3,000 blogs, but all of the things that are in this book came out of that blog site at some point.
Perfect. Guys, again, here on the line with Bob Jack, we're discussing his book, A View from the Eagle's Nest, When Justice Failed, Assessments of the Obama Era. Now, again, available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or go directly to his website, bobjackbooks.com. Now, Bob, leading off of that, I mean, why was this a book, in your opinion, that needed to be written and not something that just stayed as an idea or a concept in your mind or something you just expressed to those around you, but something you really wanted to put out to the public for the masses to be able to partake in as well?
Well, Benji, it was so important to me as the Obama administration and tenure unfolded that things were changing so rapidly in the country because of his values and his beliefs and his style. A lot of activist things were happening. I felt these things would never be captured unless I sat down and wrote them down for myself. I wanted to capture what was in the country and provide something for people to have for the future in order to go back and retrospect, look at this and see what happened. And be aware of some of the problems that existed and why they existed in the Obama administration.
Absolutely.
That impacted us so greatly, and we still feel the effects from this today, from his administration. It's the last 4 years has basically been an undoing of the 8 years he was in office, and I doubt that it will ever be completely undone. And I wanted to capture that.
You know, following off of that, as I stated before, you know, there's so many branches and avenues that we can go down, and you started to kind of offer reflections specifically pertaining to Obamacare. Now, of course, we do know, and we would know really just from viewing the 8 years that he was in office, but also from our pre-screening call, you and I quickly discussed other matters as well. Now, I'll leave it up to you. We do have the time. Now, of course, there's the whole Benghazi situation, and then being as the fact that he is, you know, he was our first African-American president that we had in office, race relations really started to get brought into a more clear perspective, or if not necessarily a clear perspective, definitely a more pronounced perspective that way. Really, Bob, talk to us in terms of what other things you address in the book pertaining to those other issues as well, please.
Sure, Benji. Let me let me get started on the racial relations that took place, which I felt were there were some anomalies there that shouldn't or wouldn't have gotten addressed in the ways they did in another administration, where race was not an issue. It's always been an issue, but it changed here with Obama. And even though Barack Obama was the first black president of the United States, racial divisions widened, I believe, under his administration. The actions and words of Obama and his Attorney General Eric Holder created tensions and racial divisions on a number of occasions. One example was when Obama accused the police in Cambridge, Massachusetts, for example, of acting stupidly by a white cop who arrested a Cambridge African-American professor by the name of Gates, who appeared to be breaking into a house, which turned out to be his own residence. When confronted by the white police officer, the professor resisted the officer and was arrested. Obama made his remarks about the white cop acting stupidly before he had all the details surrounding the incident. And that resulted in the so-called famous beer summit, if you recall, at the White House between Obama, the black professor, and the white cop.
Mm-hmm.
There were a number of other things that happened. There was the example in Florida, in the town in Florida where Trayvon Martin was killed, an African-American young man who tangled up with George Zimmerman. George Zimmerman thought he was the security guard for a community in Florida, and Trayvon Martin and he got tangled up in a conflict because Trayvon Martin was walking through the development, and there'd been a number of burglaries and break-ins recently, and George Zimmerman thought he was going to stop this. The two got into a conflict, and Trayvon Martin was killed. George Zimmerman had a gun. Now, George Zimmerman was not arrested at that time, but what happened was that Eric Holder, who is the Attorney General, had a slush fund for community activism, and he used that money out of the Justice Department to set up a protest in the town in Florida where this had happened. And as a result of the protest, George Zimmerman was arrested. He was later acquitted from the crime, but it just showed that there was an attempt to get too involved in racial matters by the administration, which I don't think would have happened under normal circumstances. Benji, those are the two examples that I wanted to give.
Thank you so much for that, Bob. And, listen, being the fact that we are here, we have you here on the line. And I think it's a fine line to walk, right? And I think what will naturally happen, as human beings are known to do, is the moment anybody picks up a copy of your book and they do little research on the book, is, you can see in the synopsis that is given when you go to your Amazon page, they'll automatically start to formulate assumptions in terms of the standpoint in which you're taking. So I love being able to have this platform, and we have you here on the line. Now's the time to address it and really be able to clear the air. Now, Bob, to play devil's advocate for a moment and play the opposite side of the fence in terms of, with regard specifically to race relations, could it be a thing where, given the fact that, Barack Obama is, an African-American himself, and given his upbringing, probably with his own experiences in dealing with the cops, and of course, as we've seen going on for a number of years, but as we still currently see, there's definitely a disproportionate rate in terms of the experience, or disproportionate experience rather, that African-Americans deal with when they're dealing with law enforcement in comparison to their white counterparts. Now, in the way that he addressed it, and I think that is really where you're thinking, really where that was kind of done incorrectly, in the way that he addressed it and how he addressed the officer in particular, relating to the professor in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I mean, I think it's a really fine line when we're talking about race relationships in terms of Barack Obama, but also looking at our current administration and how this president has really kind of given the protests that have been going on now for months, and how this current administration really, almost to a certain extent, hasn't really addressed it at all. I'm curious to see your mind on how you look at and how you compare the two administrations and how they've dealt in their own way with race relations.
Yeah, great question. I think in the current situation that we have with Trump and the abuse and the destruction that's going on in various cities around the country, whether it be Portland or Seattle or Minneapolis, Chicago, wherever. The way the government's set up, the federalism system, is that the governors and the mayors of these jurisdictions should be taking care of these things to their best ability. And when they can't do it, then the federal government is requested to step in And when they do step in, they do that with the permission and the request of the local and state governments that are involved in the problems.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that one of the reasons we haven't seen a more quieting response to these things is because of the system that we have set up. I also think that there is some politics going on in creating these Black Lives Matter, Antifa, these various movements that are funded by people like George Soros and others, and they seem to have plenty of money to do what they're going to do, and they've been very destructive. But I think there's a lot of politics going on, and on both sides, on both sides. I think these things have been going on far too long. I think the government should have stepped in a lot sooner. I think there should have been some action taken under the Insurrection Act. Mm-hmm. It hasn't been done. I wish it had, but it hasn't. So I really don't know where this is all headed, Benji, but it's not good. Hopefully it'll settle down. We've had things blow up in our faces in the 60s and other times that have settled down. Hopefully this will too.
Absolutely. Well, listen, Bob, I can talk to you for hours just on that in and of itself. But again, my job here with this platform is not to get involved and offer personal opinions that way. That's not why I'm here, right? We're here to celebrate the book that you've orchestrated and you've put together. I wanted to definitely give that opportunity to kind of offer a different perspective and kind of compare and contrast that way. And I'm glad we broached on the topic. Guys, one last time here on the line with Bob Jack. We just finished discussing his book, A View from the Eagle's Nest, When Justice Failed Assessments of the Obama Era, available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, but also directly on his personal website, bobjackbooks.com. But listen, guys, that's not all, okay? I mean, that is an absolutely gripping topic in its own right, and we love to discussing it here. But Bob has written 4 other books as well that you can also find on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and go also to his website, bobjackbooks.com, to pick up those other titles. Now, listen, we don't have, for time purposes, we don't have the time to go into those titles in detail. But Bob, please list off the titles as well so our listening audience knows how they can find them, please.
Here we go. Other books that I have published are Discovering Your Boundaries, Living Within Yourself, A Life in Darkness, The Drug-Addicted Child. It's a book about my son. Increasing Firm Competitive Advantage Through the Use of an Employee Stock Ownership Plan. It's about how Parsons developed an ESOP program and turned it into a competitive vehicle. Another one, the last one, is Contract Administration, Pitfalls and Solutions in Architect-Engineer Projects. Those are my other 4 books, Benji.
Fantastic. And Bob, just for clarification, are those all available on bobjackbooks.com as well?
No, they're all available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Three of the books, including the one we discussed today, is available on my website at bobjackbooks.com.
Fantastic. Well, there you guys have it. Go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You'll be able to pick up all of the titles, some of which will be on bobjackbooks.com. But do yourself a favor, get out there and pick up all of these titles. They're absolutely fantastic. Literally something for everyone. I mean, the range of scope in terms of the topics and what they touch up on is really something for all walks of life. Bob, this has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for being a guest with us here on People of Distinction.
Thank you so much, Benji, for the opportunity. It was really great.